What is up, Shaping Nation? This is Nick Torres here. And on this episode of Shaping Your Pottery, I got to interview Tony Young. Tony makes some really incredible graffito style pottery. Tony has been featured in Ceramics Monthly. In this episode, you will learn how Tony makes his graffiti styled pottery. You'll also learn about how Tony is using AI to help him come up with new imagery for his pottery. Finally, you'll also learn about how Tony takes inspiration from his high school students and he applies it to his own work. Hope you guys enjoy this episode, and I'll see you guys in there. Tony, welcome to Shaping Your Pottery, and share with me, what is something potters should be doing to make the best possible pottery they can?
Yeah, I like that question. And I mean, obviously, I think like one of the easy answers is you got to throw a lot, you got to glaze a lot, you've got to work a lot, you got to get your 10,000 hours in. But I was kind of thinking about it, and I think one of the big things that helped me specifically was I literally started collecting other potters' work and being able to hold their work and see what I like and what I don't like, and whether it's like the way my lip touches the rim of someone's cup and it feels good or it doesn't, or how the handle feels. Like I know a couple of my friends' work I have that I like just love their handles. So it's like something to shoot for, I guess. Like it makes me more conscious of like what I'm doing with my own work. So
That is very interesting. I've never heard that before. To make the best possible pottery is to collect other people's work. I love that so
yeah,
much.
yeah. Yeah, man.
So tell me the story how you got started in ceramics.
Well, I like to tell my kids, like, because I teach high school, I like to tell them that I never got to work with clay until I went to college. So I think I did one thing in seventh grade, nothing in high school. There was no clay whatsoever. I don't know if we even had a kiln. Like, I don't know if it just wasn't taught or what the deal was. But as far as like what got me into clay is I'm an art educator. I had to take a ceramics class when I got to college. So I went to Bowling Green State University in Northwest Ohio, and I had an awesome teacher. His name was John Gennady. He's out in California still making pots. So like I had a just good positive experience, and he encouraged me, and I was making like some kind of crappy shit. Nothing was good when I was in college. And it's one of those things where like I think I just found my medium. Like I had never done it, and I just knew it. Like once I touched clay and I started making things and I saw all the different kilns and the possibilities, like it was just exciting to me.
So tell me about the moment when your work got published onto Ceramic Monthly.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was pretty surreal. And it was kind of early on when I was making. I think I had like kind of just started finding my voice. I was hand painting everything at that time. Like, so I remember it was like a cup with a skull on the front and it had like an ant on the back, kind of like my staple type things. But they put the back of the cup was like what they faced forward in the issue, which was just interesting to me because I was like, oh, you guys didn't put my skull in. But it was still just really kind of surreal. It was just a magazine that I don't know if I just didn't even think it was a possibility my work would ever be in. It was like a dream type thing, and it was just really cool. And it was just part of a big feature. So like I was one of 20, 30 artists that had something in, but it was still pretty cool.
So what change did you make with your party that allowed you to get onto Ceramics Monthly?
I don't even know if I'd made any changes. I was never a potter. I tell people this too. Like I started in college and then even up until like 2017. So we're talking like 15 solid years, I would have considered myself a sculptor. So I did a trip to Europe and I got fortunate with the school I'm at, a very affluent school. We got to take a trip. I took like 20 some kids with me and six other adults, and just the graffiti over there, London, Paris, all over Italy. Like it just influenced everything I did. So it started me on the path of like, okay, I want to take like this inspiration and put it onto some forms. And I had taken a workshop with Calvin Ma, and I got to do like, a mold making class. So I slip cast a tumbler. So that tumbler that you see in my work still is like from that workshop. I've made more of them since, but like I've got a mold. It gave me a vehicle. So I was able to like kind of start putting imagery onto work. And I didn't really have any direction. I was actually photoshopping things together, imagery that I had taken when I was abroad, and then stuff I would just pull from the internet. And I was just like smashing everything together, making these like collages and then putting that on work. And I was just kind of inspired by just working in sections and just trying to replicate things. And it just kept evolving, kept snowballing. So
What were some of the things you were inspired by when you went abroad?
Just the fact that people paint and draw and wheat paste and just put shit all over the walls, and it's amazing. And it's like, and it's something that they did that they know is not permanent. Like they know when they put their work up there, yeah, someone might paint over it. Like someone might, paint over it tomorrow, and it's just one of those things where I just love the idea of putting your work out in public. I think the first thing I did when I came back, besides even doing like pottery and like painting and creating this imagery, is I started making those ducks that I make. And the ducks, I basically just had this inspiration of like people were putting their work in public, and I wanted to put my work in public. So I started leaving the ducks for people to find, and that was one of the first things I did with it because I had that from that same slip casting workshop with Calvin. So it's like I was like, well, I've got these ducks. What could I do with and I started painting on them, and I was doing Graffito. I was just doing anything I felt like doing on them and leaving them for people to find. And but yeah, that's kind of like it inspired me to do that, and then graffiti just kept kind of popping into this scene, and then here I am.
I love that so much. Shaping Nation, if you are making something right now, go put it out somewhere so people can start seeing it. Maybe
Yeah.
some new eyes could start coming to your work. I love that so much. So let's talk about your pottery. In one
Okay.
sentence, can you tell me what you make?
Ooh, one sentence. I make graffiti-inspired ceramics that I'm just trying to, I don't know, just kind of like put a ton of information on work and make something that kind of makes people feel special when they use it.
So tell me the story how you started making this graffiti style work.
Well, I kind of was just dabbling all over the place. Like I said, I had tons of imagery. I had like a feel that I wanted, and I just started kind of again doing those collage type images, and I was doing a lot of, I don't know, like just different things, different imagery. And then I ended up putting the word riot on one of them. I think I even have a cup somewhere down in my basement. It's like one of the first ones I made. It says chaos on it. And I kind of intended it like there was going to be like this series of all these different kind of words, and somehow riot stuck. And I don't even sign my work anymore. That kind of just is my signature. So it's like I don't put my name, I don't put a date on any work. I just put riot somewhere on all of it. So yeah, I don't know. It just kind of, again, it just kind of evolved. Even then, like it was like skulls, and that kind of evolved into some other things. And then now I'm kind of even going into some more like different, like mid-journey AI generated imagery and stuff. So,
I love that. We'll talk about AI in a little bit, but
okay, yeah, yeah.
can you tell me how did your work evolve into what you're making today?
How did it evolve there? I don't know. It's just a process of like, I don't want to say I got bored with what I'm doing, but I feel like every batch I make is almost like a test batch. And even then, like, I know like the blind naked eye, like they're going to look at my work and probably be like, a lot of it looks the same, which I agree, it does. But it's like I'm constantly like testing and trying out new things. And oh, I have never done this before, so I do that. And then like, oh, well, that looked like crap, so I don't do that again. And then I do something else, and I just keep bouncing all over the place, and it just keeps. I kind of call it snowballing. I kind of jump. I've got a million different finishes. That's where like, I mean, I've seen people do things similar to me, but like I just do so many different techniques and different trial and error type things. So it kind of just evolves from there, and I just let it happen. I just keep trying things. So
I love that so much. Shaping Nation, it's so important to keep on testing and testing as much as you can because that's where
that's
your
for sure.
voice is going to start evolving even further. I love that so much.
For sure.
So you are inspired by the world around you. How does this impact your pottery?
I think it impacts it a lot for everyone, like what's going on in my classroom, what's going on politically, what's going on, everywhere. So it's just interesting to like take it all in. And sometimes I don't even like think of things impacting me. I think they just subconsciously do. Like even some of the work, like we'll talk about the AI stuff, but like I mean, one of my main images that I'm like my favorite, and I think a lot of people like too, is the cat image. And it's like I have my cat, and everybody knows my cat that follows me on Instagram. So it's one of those things where everybody knows Marshy, and that's just even though I never intended it to be Marsh, that's Marsh. Like so it's just I don't know, little things just keep seeping in from everywhere.
So we're going to come back to AI now. What are you doing, or can you explain to me how you are using AI for your pottery?
Yeah, and like interestingly enough, I kind of didn't know what AI was almost until about December of this last year. And I remember we were going on the Christmas break, and I'm sitting around with my teacher crew. So I'm one of six full-time high school art teachers at my high school. So I've got a really awesome department. And my one dude Grant was talking about AI, and he's been dabbling with it and he's an awesome painter. And I was like, he's starting to explain to me, like, you can legit just type in whatever you envision and it'll spit out an image. And so I didn't know what I wanted to do with it, but it just sounded really interesting. So I went home over Christmas break and I started dabbling and I started like, I downloaded or whatever, paid for Midjourney. It's like 30, $35 a month. Didn't really know what I was doing. Didn't have any like vision. And then I started seeing like, I've made screens before. I've used my own, drawings. I've used my own imagery for that, or I pulled imagery from online and I alter it in Photoshop, and then I make my own screens. Like not personally, but I send them out. But it's just one of those things where like I was like, I could use this to generate new imagery, and it looks really badass. And like to me, I know it looks AI. And I don't think a lot of people have like caught on to what's AI and what's not yet. Like I scroll through my feed and I follow a few AI people and the stuff like as soon as I see it, I know it. But it's so interesting because I mean I don't sketch well. Like I would never want to draw all these things up on my own, and it's like hyper speed sketching for me. Like I can just like type stuff in and fly, and and I can create 50 new cat images, and then I can pick the ones that I want from it in a couple hours. So it's like it's pretty amazing. But
I love that so much because I'm terrible at drawing myself, and I literally
yeah, yeah,
use
yeah,
AI for that exact same
yeah,
process.
yeah, yeah, for
I
sure.
love that so much. So, can you give me a simplified explanation on how you create your pottery?
Well, I do slip cast. I slip cast my ducks. I slip cast the tumblers that you see that are real clean and uniform. And I'll have people be like, "Whoa, you throw these? They're so light." And I'm like, "They're slip cast." Like so, people get confused because not everybody knows how pottery's made. And it's so I slip cast those, but that's pretty much it. Everything else I throw. So I've got my own wheel. I've got my own, Scut 1027 in the basement. Like I've got my own studio here. So basically, just wheel thrown work. Most of my work is all underglaze. I do a lot of different things from my underglaze, technique perspective. But yeah, wheel thrown, hand painted, but I stencil. I do a million different things as far as finishes. So
So, can you give me an example of some of the finishes that you do?
like if I start a lot of cups, if I know that I'm gonna like clear glaze the whole cup, because some cups I either usually go that route. I'm either clear glazing the whole thing, or I am gonna just glaze line the inside and maybe do drips down the outside, but I leave the outside matte finished with underglaze. So I kind of got those two finishes. But like, say I'm gonna clear glaze one. A lot of times lately, if I've done any textural stuff on the outside, I'm gonna do some washes on the outside and just wipe it with a sponge, so I get it like really dinged up with whatever a blue to start with, and then I go back and I do a lot of mark making. So I mean, I've studied a lot of the just like Basquiat work and just look back and reference his work a lot, and different mark making. Doesn't matter if they're graffiti artists or not, but different ways of just putting down marks, making marks. I usually create like a base. I'm always working my way from like the background to forward. So the last things I'm gonna do after I've done mark making, after I've done underglaze transfers and stencils, I usually add white. That usually gives me my clean areas where I can like do whatever. And then I'm gonna screen print usually at the end. Sometimes I hand do stuff, but not as much anymore. It's usually if it's like a special show, I'll like maybe like graphite transfer something on. Like I can print it, graphite transfer, and then I can hand paint, do whatever. But yeah, I mean that's kind of like a really quick dumbed down version.
So, when you make your pottery, what makes you keep a pot versus what makes you throw away a pot that you don't like?
I don't throw away too much. I listen to some people that are like, I think it's like usually some of like the crystalline potters, and they're talking about how like they only have like 50, 60% success rate. And I'm like, oh, I couldn't do that. But to be honest, as long as it's totally functional and there's not any errors, like, I mean, I look at some things, I'm like, these colors aren't really my stuff. 'Cause I bounce all over with color. But yeah, as long as there's no like technical flaws in it or anything, I'm pretty much not throwing too much away. Or if I really hate it that much, maybe I'll give it to a friend or something.
So, let's talk about discovering your voice. Can you tell me about the moment when you knew you were heading in the right direction?
I think when I started dabbling just in the graffiti work, because a lot of stuff before that was just me, and I see this with a lot of artists, it's just like line designs, and it's like, I don't know, I was kind of just doing things to just see how materials worked. And I don't know, I think once I started discovering my voice, I had more of a narrative with it. Like, I just had, a narrative's always been important to me. Like, I just need something where I don't know, I'm pulling from, and I've got like symbolism at least to my work. So a lot of my work's symbolic of things. Like especially a lot of my characters lately are I mean, to me, they all represent people. Like the cardinal represents my grandma. Like she was hardcore Catholic. You've got, all these different like references for me. And I just felt like, I don't know, like I liked my work. And I think sometimes subconsciously that like support you get from maybe people on Instagram steers you in a certain way, which I hate to say that. I don't want to say like I'm influenced by what people want, but I think it happens to all of us, like you make something and people say that's awesome, then you make more and maybe you get better at it or whatever, but like it kind of steers you down a path too.
So you mentioned creating a narrative. Can you explain this to me a little bit further?
I try and do what I do with intention, just in the sense of, like I said, some of my new recent imagery is definitely very like narrative driven in the sense of I've got almost like a spirit animal group that I'm doing. Some of my old work, even with like the skulls, and I'm not saying I'm like totally going away from that, but I've kind of pivoted a little bit. Like I don't know if I feel like it ran its course or if I feel like I want to do new things. Like I've got my style, but I don't want to be totally just known for like Tony's the skull guy, or Tony's the ant guy, which I kind of am, but I'm whatever. Like I don't want to get locked in, I guess. But yeah, like narrative wise, like I'll go with about anything. Like especially like I just bounce. I feel like I'm like the Simpsons. Like it's kind of like one thing happens, the next thing, then it just like, whatever. I just jump and I'm like, oh, a cat. Oh, I can do like a little ball of yarn here. And like, oh, we'll do like I do like slash marks and do 8 lives all the time because like this guy's got one left. Or so I do like little things that like most people don't even know about, but I do it for me.
So I wanted to hop back into AI real quick. What
Okay.
advice would you give for people trying to use AI and incorporate it into their pottery?
Well, first off, I know there's a few different things out there. I tried DALL-E. It's like DALLE, and it's like very low level, not great quality. I use Mid Journey now. I don't know if there's something even comparable. What are you using? Are you using Mid Journey or
It's like mine's just a free version. It's called Wonder
okay?
something. It's like an app on the
Okay.
app store.
Like I'd highly suggest Mid Journey. And here's a good thing: you try it for a month. Like spend $30, sign up. Just you got to disconnect, or they're gonna keep getting you. But no. Like I like the fact that it is a little daunting to like get in there, and there's all these different rooms that you can go into in the sense of like where you're creating, and then where does your work go. Like you got to figure that stuff. But like it's just endless. Like maybe it just helps you. Like you and I think have both said like it helps you sketch, and maybe that leads to like different ideas. Like for me, I just see it do things, and I'm like, well, I don't even like that image, but I like that it did that with those circles, and I just steal from it. Like I don't know, it's just interesting how it formulates things, and yeah, it's just something you got to dabble with, you got to practice, just like art. So
I definitely agree. Shaping
yeah,
Nation, if you're afraid to use AI right now because maybe you are afraid it's going to take over your pottery, use it for resources and
yeah,
inspiration, not to be afraid of it. Just use it
for
to
sure.
help you get your ideas out. I love that so much.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen Carol Epp. She's musing about mud, but she's been using AI. She's created like a whole page that's just her AI work, and it's awesome because you can upload an image into it. So I think she's doing some more of this, but it'll be like of a potter with their work, and then it uses that image plus pulls from the internet, and it's just insane. Like I think it's just giving you like prototypes for things you can do, which I think is really cool too. So
Exactly. And I think it's very
yeah,
powerful. It can definitely lead people down to new
yeah,
journeys with that.
for sure.
So you contribute your growth as an artist to your current high school teacher position. How has that helped you with your own work?
Well, even just in the sense like I teach kids and I have my ways of doing things. Like I would say, don't ever bubble glaze with a light color. Don't ever do this or that. Like I've got my rules, and then I watch a kid start to do something, and it just goes against everything that I would do, and I'm like, I'm just gonna let them do it. I'm gonna let them do it. Like I have to refrain from stepping in, and then I let them do it. I'm like, damn, that looks cool. Like, I mean, I steal things from my kids. Like I literally just use white bubble glaze, and it's one of the neatest and I'm really geeked about my next kiln because it's going to have some of that in there. And I'm like, this is going to look rad. And I never would have, and as simple as it sounds, white underglaze, bubble glaze, whatever. Like it was just something I probably wouldn't have done. Like it's helped me a lot. I also have a couple people like, I mean, my department's awesome. Like I'm the dumbest person in my department. They're all amazing and really intellectual. And I can like bounce ideas off of them, and they're so good at like we help each other, and most of us practice. So it's like it's just really cool to have my one dude Grant's like a painter, but he's got such skills that are in line with what I do too. Like he's good at suggesting things with me, and like this job where I'm at, like I think I would have probably still been doing sculpture if I wouldn't have switched jobs like 9 years ago. Like I would have never went functional. I probably would have been making these big silly trophies that I was making for years. Like it just I don't know if I would have ever gotten to go to Europe. I wouldn't have been able to afford it. And it's just one of those things that like this job's opened up all those avenues for me. So
So how did taking this job allow you to go from sculpture work to functional work?
just in the fact that like I mean, I could have went to functional work if I wanted to at this other place, but I don't think I would have taken that trip to Europe and been inspired. I don't think I would have known about, let alone done, a workshop with Calvin Ma. Like since I'm closer to Columbus, Ohio, I hear about more things that are going on. There's more of a clay community there. Like where I was before, I was up in a more rural area, about maybe an hour from that. Like I just I just didn't even know what was kind of going on. And I think Instagram's huge too. Like that's inspired me to like, oh, this person's doing this person's doing that. And like you can keep up with people all around the world, which is awesome. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's just again one of those like snowball effects of like I got to go on that trip. I got to do that workshop. Then that led me to meet this person. And then G, my guy that I teach with, he pushed me to enter shows. Like I had never entered my work in a show until it was probably 2017. He's like, you should enter. You need to enter this show. Like he pushed me, and I'm like, I need that. Now I do that to other people, so it's like it's just one of those things where like kind of paying it forward. But
I love that. So as we are coming to a close here, what advice would you give to someone trying to discover their own unique voice with their pottery?
kind of coming back to where we started, I think yes, you got to make lots of work. I think you got to get. They always talk about your 10,000 hours. I think it's just one of those things where like my dude I talked about a few times, G, is just like, I think you got your 10,000 hours, like with my line work, because he's just a badass painter. And it's like, he sees it. He's like, dude, there's a shift in your like line work. It's just tighter, you're cleaner. And just one of those things where like you just do it over and over and over. And you might not even think you're getting that much better, but like it's noticeable. Like if you go back even a year, I look at my work and go, whoa, like it looks so much different now. Like, and then I think again, just I've been doing Sika. When did I go? I went to Pittsburgh in like I think it was 2019. I think that's been huge for me. I went to Nsika. I met Brian Wilkerson. I met Mike FX, Mike Regan. I mean, I stay with those dudes every year now. Like those are my homies that like I go back to Nsika. We get back together. We all like roll around. Then I've met more friends, and like we just keep getting. I mean, it's just there's such a community in ceramics, and I know so many people that aren't in ceramics that like they hate how awesome we are. Like they're just like you guys. I wish we had that as painters or whatever. Like it's just not the same. So, but yeah, man, there's just lots of things that I think have sent me on my way. But
Tony, it was so great chatting with you today. Where can my audience go and learn more about you?
probably the best place is my Instagram, which is my last name Young with a Y on the end of it, and then _03. I am going to teach a workshop doing my techniques at Pachos, and it's an online virtual workshop, so anybody could sign up. It's only like I think it's like $110, which isn't too bad. So yeah, if you like my work and you kind of want to see how I do things and figure out how to do those things in your work a little bit, you could sign up for that. But yeah, that's probably the best places.